Hello, you cotton-headed nitty muggins. Today we're doing a species showcase. Hello tarantula lovers, I'm Alex and you're watching Tarantula Haven. Before I get into the species showcase, I do want to give a shout out to one of my subscribers. They're a new subscriber, they asked for a shout out, and they go by the handle of Gecko. So Gecko, here's your shout out. Also, I do want to clear the air on something. I did have another YouTuber who also runs a tarantula site or a tarantula channel, and he goes by the name of Tarantula Sam. And Tarantula Sam pointed out something that that I had said on my last species showcase when I was talking about the avicularia. And what he said was that I had mentioned about me not handling my tarantula very often, so that it was still skittish and not used to being handled. And he pointed out that, you know, he asked me if there was any research backing that up, because he had come across the opposite. And you know, this is a case where I kind of let my mouth get away with me, and I was just kind of running at the mouth. But I do know that tarantulas are pretty hardwired to specific behaviors. They have very primitive brains. They are very primitive creatures. So they only have certain behaviors that they follow. So to suggest that a tarantula can get used to being handled, or that a tarantula can become tame, is actually something pretty irresponsible for me to say, because they do not. Tarantulas are not capable of getting tame or getting used to behaviors. As far as handling is concerned, they do tolerate it, some better than others. Of course, you have your more skittish, more defensive species who do not tolerate it very well. And then you have your more docile species who do tolerate it a little bit better. But even those more docile species are still capable of biting, even if they're considered docile, they're capable of biting if they become defensive for whatever reason. So you still have to be on guard and know what you're doing if you're going to handle. So I did want to clarify that. When you do handle, you do have to make sure that that particular species of tarantula that you're trying to handle is acceptable of handling. If it is not showing any defensive behavior, it might be okay to handle, but you always do so at your own risk. So I just want to clarify that and get that out of the way, because I don't want to be spreading misinformation. That's the opposite of what I want to do. I want to spread good information. So thank you for pointing that out, Tarantula Sam. That's what we're here for. That's what we do, and I do welcome any kind of criticism like that, so that we can talk about it and we can, I guess, do away with any kind of misconceptions that might be out there. So moving on. So the species that I want to showcase today is Ephebopus murinus. Ephebopus murinus is commonly known as the skeleton tarantula or the skeleton leg tarantula. Let me go ahead and show her to you so that you know what she looks like. Ephebopus murinus is a New World species. They come from Brazil, French Guiana, and Suriname. But even though they are a New World species, they are not considered good for beginners. They are very skittish, very nervous, and they're quite defensive. As far as venom potency, I really couldn't find out anything about their venom potency. Being New World, I would assume that it would be a milder venom than, say, your Old World species, but I'm sure it can cause you a lot of pain, localized swelling, muscle cramps, and things of that nature. So this is definitely a species that you probably would not want to handle. In my experience, every single time that I've dealt with this species, they do tend to be very defensive. I almost always get a threat posture no matter what I do. So yes, they are a defensive species. Now, they're considered a semi-fossorial, and that means that they live underground. If you notice, she's standing right over her burrow right there. And that is pretty much where she hangs out most of the time. Whenever I usually look in on her, most of the time her legs will be sticking out of that hole, and that's pretty much all I can see. So as far as having a showcase spider, something that you can show off to people, you will hardly ever see this species unless something happens where they spend a lot of time outside of their burrow, which is what happened with mine, and that's why I'm doing the species showcase. So when they are spiderlings, they're considered to be semi-arboreal, and but as they get older, they do become pretty much fossorial. And semi-fossorial because they do come out. If you notice in the enclosure here, there's quite a bit of poop on the side of it. So it seems like she comes out at night and kind of wanders around looking for food, but she relieves herself on the wall right there, which is usually above her water dish, and she just goes right back to her hide or her burrow when she's finished. Now, the reason that I am rehousing her today is because she had her burrow, and her burrow had several tunnels that extended over, and if you can see right here, I was wondering why she was spending a whole lot of time outside of her burrow, and that was because her burrow had collapsed. So everything had collapsed except for the entry, and that's kind of where she was hanging out, but she was spending most of her time outside of the burrow. So I knew something was up when I saw that, because that was just not in her nature. She was usually underground. So anyway, that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to be doing a rehouse. So I've set up her new enclosure, and her new enclosure is in the same size. I just added a little bit of topsoil to the cocoa fiber. So that way it'll firm up the soil a little bit, or the substrate, so that she can tunnel a little bit better, and hopefully it won't collapse this time. Also on this one, I did have a piece of slate over the burrow where she started it. I kind of started it for her and put the slate over it so there would be something solid to hold up that structure, and I think that might have contributed to the collapse. So on this one I'm using cork bark, and the cork bark won't serve any purpose other than just being something for her to hide under until she starts her burrow, and she'll probably start burrowing immediately. And this way there's a solid structure overhead, but she'll make the rest of the tunnels on her own. And hopefully with the, I did a 50-50 of topsoil and cocoa fiber, and hopefully the tunnels will hold up a lot better this time. Now, as I mentioned before, she is pretty skittish. And I almost always get a threat posture out of her. So for this transfer, I'm going to do it the safe way. I'm going to use the catch cut method, or the bottle method, to transfer her over, because my first experience with her, I took a paintbrush, and as soon as I touched her with the paintbrush, she immediately struck at the paintbrush and ran up it. I dropped the paintbrush, she ran out and bolted, and I had to go catch her. So I don't want that to happen again. That's just kind of their nature. That's the way they tend to be. So I'm going to play it safe and catch her in a bottle and move her over, and then hopefully all will go well if she goes into her new enclosure underneath that cork bark and stays down there. And we'll have a successful transfer. Alright, so I'm going to use this bottle method, and let's hope it goes well. Just put it right over her like that. See, there you go. There's that defensive posture. She's doing a whole lot better than I expected. So I'll get her to go up. There we go. Come back this way. And now that she's in her new home, I could, whoops, push her back down. And get her to go into her new hide. There we go. That was easy. Now, I love this species. I think they're beautiful. Their markings are real beautiful. interesting thing about Ephebopus murinus is that because they are New World, they do possess urticating hairs. However, they're unique in that they don't have the urticating hairs on their abdomen. They actually have them on their palps. And the way that they flick those urticating hairs is by rubbing them on their chelicerae and flicking them forward. So interesting species in that they're different from any other tarantula. I don't know of any other tarantulas out there that have the same behavior and have the urticating hairs in the same place. So kind of unique species in that they do that. Another cool thing about them, and I just learned this myself, I was looking at the Theraposidae website, and they mentioned that there is a dark form and a normal form, the common form and the dark form of this species. I guess similar to, say, A. seemani, where you have the normal form, which is a brownish color, and then the blue form. But the interesting thing about it is that the common form males will not breed with the dark form females. Now, I don't know why that is. I have no idea. Perhaps with more research people will find out, but I think that's a pretty weird thing. I wasn't aware that they would be aware of color or anything like that, so I don't know where color would make a difference in why they would breed with them or not. So just an interesting fact about these particular creatures. So anyway, she's in her new home, and hopefully she will take to it. There you go. There's that threat posture. Yeah, all you have to do is just touch her, and she immediately goes into a threat posture. But she's actually being pretty chill at the moment, so hopefully that's a good thing. Maybe as they get larger, they lose some of that skittishness and maybe that defensiveness, but they are a very defensive species. Another unusual characteristic of the Ephebopus murinus is that their body structure is a little bit different from most of your New World terrestrials. If you notice, she has kind of shorter hind legs, and her forelegs tend to be a lot longer. Almost a arboreal appearance, almost similar to some of the species from Asia. So, you know, that's a little bit different from most of your New World terrestrials. So I thought that was kind of an interesting fact about them. There you go. Ooh. Now, Ephebopus murinus, they tend to top out at about 6 inches. Mine is probably about 5.5 inches, and so she's probably reached maturity, so I'll be looking for a male here pretty soon. As far as temperatures are concerned, they like it at about 80 degrees. I keep mine at about anywhere from 76 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and at nighttime temperatures can drop to 74, and she's been doing okay with that. As far as humidity is concerned, they tend to like about 60 to 70% humidity. They tend to like the substrate a little bit moist, so I tend to moisten about half the substrate. I do keep a water dish in there at all times for her to drink from, but you know, it gets a little bit dry in there, and when it does, I do tend to moisten it up a bit, and she seems to be doing okay with that. So, you know, moisture, they do like it a little bit more moist than some other species. So that's my short but sweet video for today. I did do a photo shoot for Christmas, similar to what I did with my Halloween photo shoot. However, I don't have a means of capturing my computer, any footage from my computer or on my computer of what I'm doing. So I don't have a step-by-step process of what I did in Photoshop, but I do have just, you know, pictures of how I composed this this picture for my holiday greeting. So you know, here's a little video that goes along with that. It is the holidays, it is Christmas, so Merry Christmas to all. If you are Jewish, then Happy Hanukkah, and if you follow any other traditions, then Happy Holidays to everyone. If you enjoyed my video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe. Until next time, keep loving them tarantulas.